Let's be honest, he has been the man for Manchester City. Pretty much the only one, it seems, to be finding the back of the net for them. Here's a look at the top half of the Premier League standings. Manchester City there in fifth, just 3 points off Arsenal, who are at the top. Well, speaking of Manchester City, let's welcome another best-dressed one of our pundits, Nedum Onuoha. Nedum,
hold on. What about Shaka and myself?
I said you guys are always best dressed too, but I have to they're not here every day. I said you're best dressed because we're kind of coordinating today.
Oh, boy.
Oh, I struck a nerve.
It's not. It's not Stevie that sat here.
Wow, Craig's feeling. He's in his feels today, Nedum.
Let's move on.
All right, we've got Craig in his feels. But Nedum, big win, I want to say, for Manchester City, but once again, it kind of just feels like Brentford 0, Erling Haaland 1.
Well, you could say that, but previously I think all the goals that City had scored at that stadium were scored by Phil Foden, so it was nice for him to be able to break that duck. But yeah, in terms of how the football's been this season, Haaland has been the guy. You sort of wondered last season about some of his dips in form and so on, and quite a few people fancied him to not be top scorer this year, but now here he is scoring yet again. And what I love about this goal is that for all the finesse and stuff that he has with his movement and so on, well, here's a straight ball from Josko Vardiol into space and Haaland absolutely bodying the defender, as you saw. And for him to be able to do that, to be engaged in that manner, it's not something that we see very often. But it's a big moment for him because it just shows that at times, he can use those physical attributes. Because for me personally, given the size, he's 6'4", you're probably looking at 85, 90 kilos or something. He doesn't use his strength as much as I would expect him to. But when you can play balls like that and create and lead to goals like that as well, at times, you can have all the finesse in the world, but sometimes that brute strength and a great finish is all you need.
Do you think, Nedum, there's a conscious effort here, or a conscious thought process from Man City to maybe play that ball a little bit more this season to Erling Haaland, a little bit quicker and over the top to allow him to use his physicality?
Yeah, I think, to be fair, perhaps there is, because this is similar to the goal that he scored in midweek in the Champions League. Again, a Josko Vardiol ball over the top, and then it leads to a goal in itself, because at times, for the way that teams play against them, there's a lot of times where they're focused on having to go and play the ball out wide because they're so tightly compacted in that middle area, and Haaland, as is the case with being number 9, playing against the likes of low blocks and so on, don't get a lot of touches, but every so often they will feed him that ball. And it's not like the ball in the midweek was better than essentially the ball today, because in fairness, Haaland had to do a lot of the work from this point. But when you've got somebody who's prepared to be on the right side of the play like that, to be able to have the space on that left side, to run into that space and to want to hold it up or to finish, it just adds that extra dimension to the club. And I think for me as well, the more you see Vardiol doing stuff like that, the more teams will want to drop off then. And as a consequence, maybe that suits more like someone like a Phil Foden getting into the 10 spot. And from there, how much ability he has in his feet. And he's started really well again this season. So yes, I think they are making more of a conscious effort. But if teams are going to give him that, do it at your own peril, as we saw with Van den Berg today, trying to wrestle with the big man himself.
No, the one thing it would and a win's a win for City, 3 points and all that sort of stuff. One of the things it's a little surprising is, and I'm going to use expected goals here, strangely enough, because I didn't actually see all this game because I was across the Barcelona game, is that for all the possession and all the play, their expected goals, if you want to use that as a sort of barometer, is pretty much the same as Brentford. And I would have expected, with that amount of ball, that they were a little bit more creative in front of goal. Looking at the stats, I can't tell you exactly because I didn't see the bulk of the game. But that would be the only thing I would say. But then the other side of it is, there's a clean sheet. I know Brentford are not the strongest team, but it's another clean sheet away from home. And it is 3 points, and Haaland keeps that going, blah, blah, blah. But it doesn't seem to me that they created a ton of really, really good chances in the game.
To that point, you look at City's lineup and you wonder where the goals are going to come from. And really, it's 3 players: Erling Haaland, Phil Foden, who's only got two so far this season, and Reinders, who announced himself to wonderful effect on the opening day of the Premier League season, but has not found the back of the net again since. He had one effort today from about 25 yards, and in all honesty, he missed the goal by about 15 yards. Phil Foden had a couple of opportunities, difficult opportunities, but if we're talking about Phil Foden of 2 seasons ago, would have buried those quite easily. So as you look at City, and you saw this as the game went on, that Brentford dropped a little bit deeper, allowed City comfortable possession of the ball, as the stats showed, but City never really threatened because with Haaland kind of crowded out, with Brentford sitting that close to their own goal, they just don't have the support from midfield. And the wingers between Doku and Savinho, good wingers they are, but you don't fancy them to get an awful lot of goals during the course of the season. So as this game went on, it just had a kind of familiar, if not frustrating feel for Manchester City. And that was the thing for me. As much as we're talking about City and their frustrations, they're still only 3 points off the top. Still early in the season, I know. But as things get going, you just wonder where those other goals are going to come from. And that, for me, is Pep's big conundrum.
That's actually interesting. Quickly, just Nedum, do you have any concerns there of the team becoming a little too reliant on Erling Haaland, even though he is on a hot streak?
I think an over-reliance might be a bit of a stretch in some aspects because, yes, he has scored the 9 goals, but the club have also scored 15. You know, they are top scorers in the Premier League at this moment in time. So, yes, you would want the goals to be spread out elsewhere, but what does that mean? Should they be on like 20 goals at this point already with other people chipping in with 2, 3 and 4? I think in time, maybe that'll level itself out. The focus on him isn't necessarily going to be something that will remain throughout the season. I'm sure he'll get his numbers, he'll get his goals like he always does, but they'll find different ways to do it as well because every game of football is essentially quite different. But I think in some ways it's probably better to be able to celebrate the fact that their number 9 is scoring goals because up and down the land, I think there are plenty of number 9s who aren't doing that. And as a consequence, their teams are struggling. You know, to mention, say, for example, Aston Villa with how Watkins started so slowly, United with the likes of Sesko starting slowly and so on. So, you know, it's not the end of the world from Haaland to be scoring so many goals. And as long as they keep getting 3 points on the board for now, I suppose the manager will be quite happy.
All right, well, Nottingham Forest there, one more defeat, and Ange Postecoglou with a world of worry. We'll see if he even lasts the international break. But Newcastle, the Magpies, they're definitely happy. And another former Magpie is very happy. Shaka, you taking this all day, every day. What do you think?
Absolutely. Listen, I thought, as Craig mentioned, Newcastle were better from beginning to end, deserving of their two goal win. And in truth, it was pretty comfortable. Forest are struggling, you understand that, but kind of given how, I want to say slowly, Newcastle's season has started, even though it hasn't felt as bad as certainly the league table was showing before today. They needed this win, just to get a little bit of confidence behind them. They got it, it was comfortable, and now 2 weeks to rest on that. Hopefully they can build on it.
Well, I want to talk about that opening goal that we saw there in the highlight. Nedum Onuoha is still with us. Nedum, what did you make of it? Was it a foul on Morgan Gibbs-White?
No, I don't think so. I think Bruno Guimaraes gets the ball, and I think, if anything, for me, it's the story of Morgan Gibbs-White actually being able to look after the ball that little bit more. I think it comes from a position where Forest are in transition. And if you're going to be playing it to a forward and an attacker in that spot, you do need them to look after the ball. You know, you've been under pressure for so long, as Shaka was saying in that game. You just have to maintain it, try and win a foul. But ultimately, I think it was a good press from behind from Burn and an even better press from the front from Guimaraes. And you can see he kicks the ball and then it goes on to Dan Burn. So I'm okay with it. I think for Gibbs-White, he's probably going to look back and see that maybe he could have done better and maybe should have done better. But ultimately, I think Newcastle just adopted the press really well, and the reward was a great finish from Guimaraes as well.
I think Newcastle have played quite well this season. I agree. I don't think that's a foul. I think Bruno Guimaraes does a good job pressing the ball, and Gibbs-White just doesn't get himself in a very good position. Has a bad touch and loses it. Take into account Shaka mentioned the league table. Can he points to where they haven't really played that well? I think they've played. I think they've had a really good start to the season in terms of performance. Let's not forget they lost 2 late goals against 2 of the best teams, Liverpool and Arsenal. Those were very difficult for Newcastle to take because they were very competitive in those games. They had a big win in the Champions League as well. They gave Barca, although they've had their issues certainly today, they gave Barca a run for the money, particularly in the first 45 minutes at St James's Park before Pedri and Frankie de Jong really took the game by the scruff of the neck. So, you know, there's some good signs for Newcastle. They're playing some good football. They've got a bit of pace in their time. The new signing scoring a few goals, Voltemada. So I think if I was Eddie Howe, I would be feeling relatively good about my start to the season, albeit they haven't picked up maybe the points that they've deserved.
Yeah, it's almost like they're just missing a little Alexander Isak there in the final third. Oh, well.